Hello, everybody. Jason White here, coming to you on November the 21st, 2025. A very special episode tonight. This is episode number 75 of Into the Fire. That's like a diamond episode. And so I'm very, very honored to have a special guest tonight. It's going to be Shane Petty, Ranger extraordinaire, probably one of the most well-known Rangers in the state of Tennessee. And this guy, let me tell you, when I talked to him on the phone and I read his bio, I was like reminded as to how little I have done in my life. I mean, this guy has made the best of his career, and he's made Rangers proud throughout this country. Believe me, you talk about somebody that's done a lot. Last week, I was actually in the great state of Tennessee. I flew back Sunday. My wife and I were there in Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge area, and a very special surprise, actually, Danny Couples, who's going to be joining me on this episode. He and his wife Dory had came out, and they spent a couple days with us out there, and we had a great time. And we walked our legs nearly off, and we just searched in almost every store. Believe me, there's lots of stores, and between both of the ladies, they enjoyed getting to know one another, and we just had a good time. So it was a lot of fun. I have to say, Gatlinburg and the Pigeon Forge area, the Great Smoky Mountains, that's the first time I've ever seen it in the daytime, and I was absolutely shocked at how cool of a place that was. That's a place that Tina and I are most certainly going to return to. And yeah, it was awesome. You can hear her yelling in the background. Awesome. And it was awesome. It's ladies. And I wanted to mention this too. I know that as you're watching this, it's like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm not really doing this live. We're not doing this live because it's actually Tuesday night. And the reason why is because while you're watching this Friday, I'm going to be in the middle of my presentation at the U.S. Marshal Museum in Fort Smith, Arkansas. My 2-hour presentation that I'm going to be giving. It's my encore performance at the U.S. Marshal Museum. So hopefully people have gotten there. Hopefully the people that are close enough, they're not watching this live, they're watching this, they're going to be at the show. And I know that Phyllis and Cheryl are going to be at the event. They're actually flying in from Michigan and Virginia. So that's really special. So I don't want to keep this guy any longer than we need to, but I'm going to tell you, I do want to mention a couple of other things. One of the things that Danny and I did that was really, really interesting is that both he and I, we went to the Alcatraz East Museum, and some of the things that are in this museum, there's a lot of different artifacts. Like there's OJ's Bronco. That's the Bronco, and that's pretty cool. And it's real cool. I wish I could have went up there and just looked in it and checked it out. Maybe got a little luminol and resprayed it. And that's Ted Bundy's VW. That's actually his VW, not the one that he was caught in finally. This is the one that he actually did a lot of the abductions in Utah and Washington State area. That's the original one. And as we were looking in one of the displays, if you could see it, Kathy Kleiner's book, and Kathy Kleiner, who was a guest on this show, she was actually nearly beaten to death by Ted Bundy from the Chi Omega sorority house. We saw a display that had her book in it, and I messaged her immediately, and I was like, "Hey, Kathy, look what I just came across. This is really cool." And so she's probably going to get in touch with them and see. We messaged back and forth, and I think she's going to get in touch with them and see if maybe she can do a book signing there at the museum, which is pretty amazing. But anyway. Very cool. I recommend the museum. It was a lot of fun, and I actually read a lot of the different things. It was worth taking a look at it. Furthermore, if you're law enforcement, they'll give you a discount too. So keep that in mind. So nevertheless, this is episode number 75. We're going to bring Shane Petty on the show, and Shane is a legend in the great state of Tennessee when it comes to the state rangers. Shane is currently the operations chief for Maury County Office of Emergency Management, where he oversees day-to-day operations for the office as well as the search and rescue program and the department's canine program. From 1989 to 1993, he was a park ranger for Henry Horton State Park and later became the assistant chief. And in 1997, he was named chief ranger for all 56 state parks, overseeing 250 state park rangers and all emergency operation teams, which included wildlife, fire rescue, search and rescue, horse-mounted, and their canine search and rescue team until his retirement in 2023. And really, when I look at that and I'm looking at the years, man, he became the chief pretty darn quick. He wasn't with them that long, so he apparently turned a lot of heads, and he was doing a great job. Chief Petty has also been involved in or ran over 2,000 search and rescue missions for lost and injured people, and has captured over 280 missing persons with his bloodhounds. He has authored 2 books on search and rescue, one of which is Lost and Hound, and the other one is So God Made Rangers. Definitely, you should check those out. And he belongs on several search and rescue boards in Tennessee, and is a co-founder of TSAR, which is the Tracking and Search and Rescue, in conjunction with the Tennessee Law Enforcement Academy, where he has been an adjunct instructor for 29 years. And he's a speaker. He speaks all over the place. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, we need an interesting speaker, you might have your guy right here, both he and I, and you could just have us both come to your conference. Let's bring on both. Danny Couples is joining us too, because Danny's a buddy of his. Thanks for being here, Danny. I appreciate you co-hosting again. And I pay you big money to be here, and I appreciate it. And let's bring on Shane. Thank you for being here, Shane. Great to meet you in person, and thanks for being here, man. It's a real honor.
Oh, no, honor is all mine. Appreciate you having us, and come see us in Tennessee again.
Loved it. And matter of fact, my wife and I, as we were driving back, I was like, I could actually live in this state. Honestly, it's just so pretty. And the people are friendly to another level. Oklahoma, they're friendly, but there's something special in your state. So, but anyway, so tell us how you ended up getting, by the way, and I got to say this or I'm going to get in trouble. Danny, my wife wants me to tell you hello, and tell Dory hello as well.
I will.
All right. So, but anyway, we had a blast with you guys, really. Let's talk about, how did you even get interested in this career path to begin with, to become a ranger?
I'm probably one of the most blessed individuals ever. I met a horse-mounted ranger actually at Henry Horton when I was about 12 years old, and we're on a family vacation. Henry Horton has a hotel. So we were there on a family vacation. I met that horse-mounted ranger, told my mom, I know what I'll do for the rest of my life. On the horse-mounted ranger at Henry Horton. I was hired in 1989 as a ranger at Henry Horton. That's all I did all through high school. I worked for city parks, starting picking up trash, anything I could do in a park. I interned during the summer in college for Tennessee State Parks. And when I graduated, when it came my number, we had 50 plus state parks. I'd go anywhere to get a job. It happened to be close to home at Henry Horton. And not more than a year after that, I became a horse-mounted ranger at Henry Horton. So fulfilled my childhood dreams and goals pretty quick. A ranger there for a little bit, and then my boss there, he decided he would leave and go be the chief ranger for the state. And he followed me or brought me with him, not because I was that smart. It was just I could work harder than anybody, and he just needed somebody that could hustle. And so right when we were about to get our program off the ground, unfortunately, he contracted cancer and had a tough battle and lost it. And then just like you said in the intro, I was too young to be, I was probably too young to be an assistant chief, much less a chief. To command that big of an area, but I took it on and worked as hard as I could and was able to do it for 25 years. So it's not real easy to hold on to a position at that level for 25 years, but I was very, very blessed.
You must have had good people working for you, for sure.
Yes.
And I know that you were more of an operations type of a chief, which means that, at least I've heard you say that, where you basically were out there, you were getting dirty right along with your people and working right alongside of them.
Yeah.
So
just the way I'm built, still to this day, I'm operations manager here in Maury County. And just because, I'm still out running in the woods with the canine still to this day.
Hey, let me ask you something. You'd mentioned something about this program when you were in high school and growing up. Is that to me, it sounds almost like the Explorer program. Does that still exist? And is that something like if somebody has kids that's watching this and they're interested in a program like that, is that unique to Tennessee, or is that a program that kind of goes on in other states as well?
Well, it goes on in other states. So we have, it's not a prerequisite, but it's probably about where we hire about 85% of our rangers. So I did it as an internship. So I got credit in college and got paid. So, and it's called a seasonal interpretive ranger. So you would lead hikes, hay rides, recreational opportunities, depending on what park you were and the amenities there. And so it was kind of a training ground that you'd get to know about the park and the park rangers. Do I want to do this for a living? Knowing the hours that they work and the rescues, or whatever it may be. And in turn, the rangers got to see you. And so it was a good training ground that they would they could pick you out if they thought, hey, this person will make a good ranger. And most state agencies across the country have those type of programs.
Yeah, and I looked it up on your state website, and the pay is not. I mean, when you become a ranger, it's not super low. I mean, you could actually make a living at it.
It's a lot better than as all of us. But when I started, you didn't make much money, but you didn't need to. They gave us a house and car and a horse. Man, what else did I need?
And you're living in paradise. You're living in where everybody wants to go for the weekend and stuff like that.
Yeah, I lived on 1,500 acres and I didn't have to pay the property tax or mow the grass. So it was great.
Yeah, except for you had to work every holiday, and your most prime time to get up and do stuff was late in the evening and at night.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you work every weekend. So, the grass is not always greener.
Yeah. So as you're working there real quick, and Danny, feel free to jump in at any time. Just wink at me. As you're working there and you're doing your thing, I'm sure that life as a ranger was pretty slow during the week. But then when COVID hit, people went nuts and everybody bought a freaking travel trailer to where you can't even get a spot in most of these places.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, any spot it didn't have to be a park. It could be just a natural area. My definition of a natural area for a quick is just, it's a small area usually that didn't have rangers. So just a hiking trail on the side of the road, it might have a parking lot that would hold 15 cars and there would be 100 cars out there. So we really had our hands full during COVID.
Hey, Jason, there's a TV show out now. It's called Tracker. Have you seen it?
No.
It's you need to watch it. It's probably one of the number one show on I don't know what, ABC maybe, but this is the second season. But my point is, every time I see that show, I think of Shane. Shane, have you seen it?
Oh yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And he's always been my hero since I've heard him talk my whole career. And one of the things that I remember, and I told him about it the other day, and he said, "How do you remember that?" Because it stuck with me, and it was about a person who was lost in the mountains, I believe, and it was really frigid weather, and it has something to do with fleece. And I'll let Shane tell that story if you don't mind.
Sure. It was a young lady again in the Smokies, and she became lost. The day she got lost in the Smokies, it was 14 degrees. At night, the wind chill got down to 11 below, and she actually got injured and fell in a creek that first night. And there is no way or reason that she should have been able to survive. And she was lost for 2 days, didn't find her for 3 days. And she basically, what saved her life was she had a fleece jacket on, and she kind of pulled her arms in it, zipped it up, pulled it over her head, and just kind of huddled in it like a tent. And that fleece, even being wet, had the insulation capacity to save her life.
Wow.
And I was able to interview her also 25 plus years later to find out about her, if she'd lost any of her extremities, and they were able to do some therapy and keep all of her toes and feet. But it moved me so much that when I came back, being in charge of the Rangers, automatically their winter jacket became polar fleece. I mean, it moved me so much that it had that life-saving capability.
Yeah, you guys are required to have bachelor's degrees to be a ranger, and am I right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and so I mean that's saying something right there, because my police department, actually the Tulsa Police Department, I think we're the last one standing of municipal departments that's our size to require a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And my point is that you know, you have to have a tough time getting people wanting to do that job at this point. I know that we do, and especially with the schedule and stuff. Now I'm sure you get nature lovers, man, that just love the outdoors. They love fishing. They love all of it. You can still get a house that's the ranger house, right? But they just pay a lot. They pay a lot less for it.
Yeah.
So you guys, what I'm getting at is that you guys are like you're a police department. You guys are commissioned police officers through post, which is the certification entity. And so are you guys I have no doubt that they dump bodies with regularity in murder victims and stuff in state parks. I'm not trying to advertise that, but that's the reality of the world. Is that your case, or how does that all work? I mean, are you guys working it from the
It's a little bit joint jurisdiction. It's kind of odd. I hate to think about that. When I do a lot of talks, and I try to tell people don't wash this out. But my thesis were bodies that were dumped in natural areas in state parks, and it's kind of sad. But that's kind of normal all across the country, that people find natural areas type that are in rural areas. But we certainly don't have the investigative capacity and background and training. So we're going to usually lean on our local sheriff's department, or here in Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So we would be heavily involved, but we're going to, use people like you that, that's what you do every day. It's certainly not what we do. So we're going to lean on those local jurisdictions to assist us in those areas.
Shane, I never did fulfill my promise to you years ago. I was going to set up a training for some of your staff on how to respond to bodies that's found in the wilderness as a death investigator side.
Sure.
And I never did get that together for you, so I apologize for that one.
We'll still maybe pull that together for them. I still work with those folks pretty much. I'll always be a ranger, so I still talk to them an awful lot.
Get with me, we'll get her done.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, that would be cool. And then the other thing that struck me about your state is that it takes 9 hours to drive from one tip of your state to the other. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I know it's a long state, but 9 hours. And I think I heard you say something that you've driven like 1.5 million miles, over 1.5 million miles in your car. Is that right?
Yeah. It may be a little bit more than that. I kind of added up all the vehicles that I turned in over the years, and I think it was around about 2 million, something like that.
Really?
So, it'd be odd. I'd be at a store somewhere and somebody'd see me in uniform and say, "Now, what part do you work?" And I'm like, "It depends on where I woke up." It's usually where the emergency was, but that was the excitement about the job. I got to see places in Tennessee, that most people just don't get to see.
Yeah, I bet. And that I was hearing something about James Earl Ray, and that's the guy that trained you, right? That actually led the search to try to find him from Brushy Mountain. Brushy Mountain?
Well, James Earl Ray, he was the killer of Martin Luther King, and he's actually escaped from Brushy Mountain. And one of the gentlemen that took a bloodhound was a former FBI agent. Bob Swade was my mentor. Bob got me my first bloodhound. He got me on those first searches of the 2 kids in the Smokies, and then got me my first bloodhound. So he got me started in that. So my mentor was one of the individuals that helped track down James Earl Ray in Brushy Mountain.
Some of the cops, I was out there speaking at the Tennessee Crisis Negotiator Association. Shout out to them. Great conference. It was their 2nd annual. Great people. But I was talking to some people, and they said that Brushy Mountain, that they basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe they're just telling me this, but they said, oh man, that place is around that prison is infested with rattlesnakes, that they basically imported them in there to discourage people from taking off out of that prison. Is that true?
I don't think I would buy that they imported them in there. That's kind of a myth in Tennessee, but it's a very rugged area. Actually, we have a park, Frozen Head State Park, that butts up to the park. So lots of times when the prisoners would escape from there, the rangers have to be on, pretty high lookout because they very well could end up in the park pretty quick. Yeah.
So tell me about a day in the life. What was the day in your life? Because what did you do? Did you just pick a state park that you're going to go? All right, today I haven't been out here to this one park. I'm gonna just take a trip.
Well, no, usually it depended on the emergency. Of course, part of my job, I was in training, so it would be training rangers, but I did all emergency response. So it would depend, and we had everything you could imagine. People get in the wilderness area and just accidents happen. So it could be a drowning, it could be a wildfire, it could be a missing kid, missing person, anything of that scenario. It could be just a natural disaster, an ice storm, tornado hit, anything to that capacity. Here just a year or so ago, we had the Hurricane Helene come through and hit right on the East Tennessee, North Carolina border. And it wiped out 2 or 3 state parks. One, it just took it off the map. It took every structure off of it. David Crockett birthplace, they've had to rebuild it from scratch. And so that would be what we would have done, is we would have responded first with search and rescue and recovery, and then having to help rebuild the community in the park itself.
Yeah. Wow.
So it really was. It was whatever park that I, ended up in. And of course, I was over a horse-mounted patrol, so we would do a lot of big events. Whether it was 4th of July, any big event may be, or governor inauguration, special events that I spent a lot of miles with pulling the horse trailer.
Yeah. Do you get to know the governor pretty well? Is that one of those deals that you're?
Yeah. You get to meet him. Yeah. I worked in my tenure. I think I worked 9 different governor inaugurations. And so you get to meet them and, special details. So I've got to, get backstage, so to speak, and meet most of them, get your picture taken with them. So that was always a great honor.
Probably a president here and there that just, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to. I tried pull some strings to go when I was at the FBI Academy, and I wanted to ride a horse on the grounds of the White House. I had done some training for the U.S. Park Police, and they said, "You come, we'll let you ride all over the White House." And when I came there, it was 2 weeks after 9/11. And they said, "Shane, it's not going to happen." But they pulled some strings and they let me get on the grounds. And I'd always heard there were SWAT guys in black uniforms on top of the White House. And when I walked out there and got on that horse, those guys took notice of me. So they knew I was not supposed to be there, and I was not supposed to be on that horse because I wasn't in uniform.
Ride his horse to the White House.
Yes. I thought I had lived my last day that day. But
oh my gosh. Yes.
Because I asked the park police, I said, "What are those guys doing?" He said, "They're pointing guns at you right now because you're not in a park uniform."
Oh my goodness.
I got on the horse and got off before they even took a picture. I said, "I don't need a picture. I experienced it. I want my life." So,
yeah, right.
My
gosh, that's a story in and of itself, man.
It was
pretty cool.
Yeah. So all right. So I asked you off there, what's a case or two that to you, your dog had actually found 250 something people, missing persons.
Well, it's kind of the first 2 searches I went on, like I said, was in the Smoky Mountains for a couple of lost kids. And coming off of those 2 searches, what got me, the first individual, young boy, unfortunately, he fell off about a 100-foot cliff in the Smokies and to his death. And then about 8 months later, we were back up in the Smokies looking for a 9-year-old that was lost in the Cleveland's Dome area. And we found him alive after 5 days. In both of those cases, it moved me, not to search, but to have to look at the parents. When you come out of the woods every day and you look at a mom's face, that they're just, they're hanging on anything that you may have found, a footprint, a thread of their clothing. And when you hadn't, I mean, it really pushes you to do something more. And so that pushed me to do canine. And so I started a canine program with state parks. And what got me into a very interesting career is I would be asked by local law enforcement agencies to come assist them with missing persons. And then it would be criminals. So most of my cases are almost about 95% criminal. That's not the way I designed it, but most agencies don't really need a bloodhound. They don't maybe need them once or twice a year. And so it's not really feasible for them to have them. And at that time, I was kind of the only bloodhound around in Middle Tennessee, and people knew who I was. And I got a lot of calls and would make a lot of fines. And every time you'd make a fine, your name would get out there. But that only meant it gets you called out in the middle of the night, twice as much or 4 times as much.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of big robberies and a lot of homicides with my canines.
Yeah. And by the way, just to the listeners, the most dangerous job of any police department or for a cop is canine, because they're chasing after the worst of the worst. And did you ever have any close calls with respect to that?
About 3 days ago. Well, no, Friday night. As a matter of fact, I got called to a neighboring county for an armed robbery suspect. And we got out there, and suspect had been in the woods for about 4 hours. They didn't have a canine available, and took them a little while before they got me. And it was still about an hour and a half for me to drive there. And I was very proud of my canine. I was there about 20 minutes. We had him, but unfortunately, it was dark, and we're not going to use flashlights if we can, because that puts you as a target. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to read the dog the best I can. And I knew we were getting close. And so I stopped real quick and put my lights up, and the guy was about 12 feet in front of me with a shotgun.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, as you said, it's a pretty dangerous job, but the locals did a great job of getting a good perimeter, keeping the individual there. And we had a good negotiator with us, and we were able to talk him down, and everybody was safe, and we got him some help, and all is good.
I've always heard just being a ranger is one of the most dangerous jobs as well. You're out in the woods by yourself, and you come up with maybe a hunter or something, and it's just you and him. I mean,
rangers and wildlife officers. Wildlife officers usually out there by themselves, and everybody they're going after is, during hunting season's got a gun. So it is very dangerous for them. So,
yeah, not to mention bears. You know what, Shane, I had no idea that that's a bear that I took a picture of next to the road. And that was up there about a mile outside of Gatlinburg at that Ogle's cabin. You probably have seen it. And I'll tell you what, man, there was bears running in and out of the not running, man. They were just chilling and walking into town and walking right by the bar and wherever. Well, I was like, holy cow, man. These things are ever. Matter of fact, on that, I took a video of that bear right there. Yeah. And then I happened to watch that video a little bit more. And there's 2 more bears up on the top of the hill that I never even noticed. And so, I mean, that's got to be something that you run across those things all the time.
It's kind of interesting. I just shared a post on my Facebook site just about an hour ago. I think it was the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Officers were having a conference right now in Gatlinburg, and a TWA officer, a friend of mine, was up there, and somebody took a picture, and the bear pried open his tailgate to get some bubble gum, I think, out of the back of the truck he could smell. So it had a bear actually attacking the wildlife officer, or maybe it was checking his license. I don't know.
Smokey the bear. So
yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. When I went into the hotel there in Gatlinburg, they just said, "Hey, make sure that your windows are up and make sure that there's no food in the car." And I'm waiting. I'm thinking, what, you have like a burglary from vehicle problem here, or you have like a significant homeless population? They're gonna rip my window open, and they're like, and I'm like, and I'm like, what's the deal? And they're like, oh, because of the bear, and I'm like, what? The what? It didn't even dawn on me. And they said the bear. They said, oh yeah, they come into the lobby sometimes, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Sure.
And I couldn't believe it, man. And there was probably, there was 4 or 5 sightings there in town. Plus, they said now's the time that they're really they're more dangerous now because they're scavenging for food before they hibernate, I guess.
Yeah. Welcome to Tennessee.
And they're getting closer to where, we live in Middle Tennessee. You know how far that is, Jason. You had to drive.
Yeah.
To get to the airport, but they're migrating in this area. Is that right, Shane? I read a story on the news actually a few months ago where a bear was hit by a car here.
Yeah, over in Rutherford County. Yeah, just one county over. Yeah, sure was. So we've got them here. They're headed this way.
So what's the deal with them? Are they pretty much? I mean, if you know what to do, I guess. I mean, have you ever? I'm sure you've ran across people that have been killed by them. That's just.
One of my mentors worked Richard Taylor. He taught me how to work a bloodhound and do search and rescue. And he did work one bear attack of a young girl, and it was a fatality. And most of the time you're not going to run into an issue, but this girl, got in between the mom and the cub, and the animal was just doing naturally what a parent would do. And she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. But most of the time they're going to take off running. But, if you get up in Gatlinburg, they get pretty used to people because they know, and that's why they tell you don't feed the animals, because they're going to get too used to you and too dependent on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So you did a couple of other things that I think are really fun and neat. And one of which is you kind of got together a lot of these artifacts and stuff, and you created a museum, so to speak. Am I right?
Yeah, we're able to create it. There's a fine line between historical interpretive protection and hoarding, and I was kind of more of the hoarding side. But being the chief for so long, I just, I loved interviewing some of the old Rangers, and I collected as many old uniforms as I could over the years. Old saddles, old first aid kits, old, I had a example of every revolver and pistol that we carried over the years, and of course photos and things like that. And so we were able to put it into a museum. Unfortunately, with growing pains, we've had to do some rebuilding. So we had to pack everything up, but we packed it up, we inventoried it. We hope to take it on the road to East Tennessee, maybe to some museums here in the next year or so. And then the administration has told me they're looking to find a permanent home for it. So we hope to find a good park for it. And it's pretty cool because I know there's a national park ranger museum, but I don't know of another state park ranger museum. So it's pretty cool. And it was in the chief ranger's office. So it was a good way for new rangers to come in, kind of know their history, know where we came from. And I would make them write me a article on, and I'd give them, Jason White, and I'd make them go research who he was, how he got started, what park he worked at, and tell me something about him. Because, I think you need to know your history. You need to be able to tell your story, and you can't tell it without knowing the history of your agency.
Yeah. And then you did something else that I thought was pretty brilliant, actually, and that's the alumni, to where you have a get together once a year at the end of July. For all staff. That could be somebody that cleans rooms at the hotel at the park, all the way up to you or other leaders that are involved in it.
Yeah, you did your homework, didn't you? Man, I give you credit. But we started that several years ago, and I found out it was, I called her when I first started it. I called a ranger that had retired about 3 years ago, or 3 years prior to that, and he started crying. And he said, "Y'all forgot about me. I spent 40 years doing this job, and I left, and nobody called me." And it got me to thinking. And I said, "Well, it's not that we didn't call you. We just got busy doing the job. But shame on us." Mm-hmm. And it taught me that you get in a job that all of us are in, you live it. Your family lives it. And especially when you're a park family because you live on the park, and they end up dealing with as many campers as the rangers do sometimes. So and then I spent so much time in all the parks. I would stay in their houses. I'd be at their house on 4th of July because I was working a park lots of times more than I would be mine. So it became a good family. So we get together. We do it at the end of July because that's right around World Ranger Day, and we celebrate World Ranger Day. But it's not just for rangers, as you said. It can be somebody, one of the maintenance guys that worked at a park, one of administrative persons in the office, or somebody that cleaned the bathrooms at the picnic shelter in the hotel. And we're all a family. We come and get together and tell stories and show photos, and do a little memorial video of folks that have passed on, and just try to protect the legacy of our history of our park system.
Yeah, it's just like when a cop retires from a police department, it's like their identity has just been stripped from them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you got to be careful about that too, because these guys, that's their whole family, and once they're out, and
yeah,
and that's I think that's brilliant that you put that together. Actually, where is the National Ranger Museum at?
I believe it's in Yellowstone.
Oh, okay, nice.
If I remember correctly, I believe it is. And something that we're hoping to do is we're going to take. We've already started doing a couple of them. We're taking our alumni and putting them back out in the parks. Leading some hikes. Taking the ones that their strong suits, what they were able to do. And I'll probably end up doing some search and rescue or canine stuff, demonstrations for groups. And same thing I would do with the kids is educate older folks that are out there hiking and things, the dangers. So, I get to be a ranger for an hour or so. And so we still try to get the alumni out there. And, we put a lot of money into them. We might as well get something back out of them.
Yeah.
Is that near Old Faithful? It's where that ranger.
I'm not positive, Danny. I apologize, but I think Yellowstone was it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was out there this past summer, and I remember seeing it.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny. That light bulb that you're involved with, it's the Locator 911. Am I saying that correctly?
You had this first time. Yes, it is the Locator.
For the first time I got it right. Yeah, the Locator 911 bulb.
That's it.
Amanda, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for a gift for your loved one to make sure that they are taken care of, and that emergency personnel, if they happen to have a medical condition or something along those lines, we're taking a pause for a little commercial break here. If you I don't know that you could buy a better gift. This gift is something that could save their life, and it's something that leads the EMS crews straight to their house. And believe me, in a rural setting for sure. And they're working on a lot of amazing products that I can't even mention right now, but they're right around the corner. Amanda, show up that quick little video. So go out, buy several of them. They and by the way, Danny, while I was with Danny and we were walking around this Christmas store, I don't know what the heck it's called, but I don't know how the heck I managed to get out of there without spending a dime. But in this store, Danny's sitting there checking his phone. He goes, "Yeah, we just sold 100." And so he sees every single one that gets sold. So it's a big deal. Any comments, Danny? Any last pitch?
Yeah, we get alerts that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's pretty exciting. But you said it's not only for EMS, it's for law enforcement, fire departments, or anybody responding to a call. And both of you know how hard it is to find a house, especially at night. So from our experience, we need this, and it's a gift that can keep on giving.
Yeah, not only that, but they've got a lot of other things that would help if you happen to get lost in the woods too. So all of this stuff is coming very shortly. And I'll tell you something, Shane, did you guys, right now with the drones and stuff and how they're being utilized, I'm sure that we've looked for bodies that are in our rural area, like out in the woods and stuff. Man, it's tough. It is tough to find somebody. but the drone technology is getting better and better. I'm sure that's something. Is that something that the Park Service is starting to look at to help the search?
Yeah, that's pretty much standard, for years and years, and we still do. We used lean heavily on the Tennessee Highway Patrol and their aviation unit, but it takes a while to spin that up, and it's a lot quicker and easier to get drones out there. So the park system has some, but usually we just would lean on our local agencies that would have them. And they could be there in just a few minutes and put drones up. That law enforcement armed robbery that I worked this week, I think they had about 6 drones up while I was out there looking for this individual. So we had 6 drones up and the helicopter all at once.
Yeah. When I think of this bloodhound dog, we deal with German Shepherds and I think they're Malamutes or something. I don't know, but that's the types of dogs we use. And when I think of bloodhounds, I'm thinking like Cool Hand Luke, where he's escaping and running off in the woods. Are the bloodhounds, is their sense of smell like exponentially greater than like a German Shepherd?
Well, you're going to get me in a big trouble. Because you can put 100 of us in there, dog canine handlers, and we're all gonna brag on our dogs. So every dog has their ability. I just did my research. I felt the bloodhounds were. My mic drop is I say, well, I have found 287 individuals in my career that the dog actually found them. So somebody would have to come up with more numbers than that to convince me that another dog is better. Now, I've done it for about 33 years, so I should have, a good number of finds, but they just have a great ability to discriminate. In other words, give them a scent article of one individual. Or I'll give you an analogy. The gentleman that trained me, he said, look, have somebody lay a trail on a golf course early in the morning, let people play on it all day long. Come back that evening, give the dog a scent article, let them try to find the individual. If that dog can do that, then you've got a really, really good certifiable dog. And that's tough to do, to have that much contamination. But, if you think about it, you go into a scene, in law enforcement asked me to trail somebody that went into a house and committed a homicide and ran out back. And if 15 law enforcement or EMS people have been in and out, there's sin everywhere. So I'm wanting to ask that dog to find that one individual instead of everybody else that's been through there. And that takes a lot of training to put that dog into it. I feel the bloodhound does that the best, but that's just my area. The dog, I saw Cool Hand Luke and I love the dog too. So that's where I went with it.
They can, I think you might have told me this, or I heard it somewhere, that if it's early enough, the dog can actually tell, like if they got in a car, which direction they may have went. Is that true?
Yeah, they can. I mean, I don't know that I've had a dog that was that good. Now, I ran a trail about 2 weeks ago of a missing child or a teenager. And I trailed her from her house, and the dog got to the end of the neighbor's driveway and stopped. And they said, what happened? I said, she got in a car right here. The dog went out trailing further. I couldn't come up with a direction, but that dog stopped and said, okay, the trail ended here. And it wasn't about an hour later, they found out that, her boyfriend had come and picked her up. So, it at least it told us that she wasn't out in the woods, that she was mobile and she was okay.
Is there a difference between like a cadaver dog and a bloodhound? I mean, I know they got to be trained differently, but
yeah, they're trained different. But I've got a lot of good friends that use bloodhounds as cadavers, human remains detection dogs. So yeah, they have that great smell. So
okay, and that brings me to a point I want to ask about real quick, because I've been in homicide for 16 and a half years, and I have dealt with this since I've been in there. And that's, I hear it all the time, usually from younger detectives. And they're like, yeah, that's witchcraft. Those cadaver dogs don't work. And my opinion to that is, oh, yes, they do. That's why they've been around for decades. And sure. What is your opinion of cadaver dogs?
Yes, they work. I saw a dog, a good friend of mine, one of my mentors. I saw his dog find a indicate on the body about 35 feet down, and I wouldn't have believed it until divers went down and brought this young kid up, and that sold me right then and there.
Well, wait a second. Wait a second. You mean divers?
Yeah, the dog would indicate that the gases were coming up, and the dog would bark, indicate, hey, there's a body down there. And so then we would bring in divers to go in and dive down and find the body.
Wow.
Wow. Did you ever have any luck with like buried bodies out there and so forth as well?
Well, my job, we were talking about Hurricane Helene. My job became in Tennessee because I've worked so closely for so many years with the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. I had the Department of Health and Department of Safety and the Highway Patrol calling me saying, Shane, get us cadaver dogs. So I sent probably dozens of cadaver dogs toward HRD dogs to Helene, and then a lot of them. I've got some really good friends that are really good dogs with Task Force One out of Memphis, and they went to Texas and to Helene. So they wouldn't, they do a lot of training. I mean, it is very rigorous, and the certification is really, really tough. And so, they just have a great ability. They're just a tool in the toolbox, just like everything we use. You can take them out there and not find, on this case, they didn't solve the case. But just the other night, with 6 drones and a $10 million helicopter in the air, they didn't find the guy, but the canine did. So it was just his night. We were just at the right place at the right time, had the right training, and were able to locate the suspect. So you just try to use every tool in the toolbox, whether it's a drone, helicopter, whatever it may be, blood splatter, fingerprints. Try to use them all in that investigation to find that missing person.
Yeah. And did you ever have any close calls with snakes?
I never did. I've about had a dog bit before. I never have, but a couple of my good friends have. Just here recently over the summer, a good friend of mine had one bit. Because your dog's out in front going, and you're busting through just very rugged area. So it's very common. I've been very lucky and very blessed. Probably I've been close to it. I just didn't know it, and I'd rather not think about it.
Yeah, because I could think that after the dog gets through there, now the rattlesnake is awake.
Yeah,
and then you come up on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard the analogy. It'll bite the second person come through, the dog being the first one, and the handler being the second. So not sure if that's true, but I've been blessed.
We're going to get to your books here in a minute, but I'm curious I'm just fascinated with this because I've never talked to a park ranger in depth like this, and this is interesting to me. So what are you looking for? What are kind of the characteristics of an applicant that you really look for that just kind of interest you in that person? What are you looking for?
Well, you've got to have that love of the out of doors. You've got to have that love of people, because we're really, law enforcement is a very small percentage of what we do. It is more education of public. You want to educate them about the flora and fauna of a park. But you also have to run different operations, whether, a camp where you've got people coming camping, you've got hiking trails. So those hiking trails are usually built by the park rangers. They're maintained by the park rangers. They're reblazed by the park rangers. And when somebody gets lost on them, it's that park ranger that has to go out there and do them. Danny being a paramedic, we would call them to come assist us. But Danny's like, I don't want to go 8 miles out on that trail. If I don't have to, I want to, you go get the individual that's injured and bring them to us. So with that being said, that's why we have to do a lot of search and rescue. You have to search for the person, then you have to rescue them, you have to treat them. So Danny and I, we got to know each other because I went to EMT school. So many of our rangers, they're either EMRs or a lot of them are EMTs, and we have several that are paramedics, just because of we have, if we have an individual have a heart attack 8 miles out on a trail, that can be a very serious, because, we're going to be limited on how much oxygen we can give them because of the supply that we can take with us.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Interesting.
On that show I was talking to you about Tracker, last night's episode was a guy just like that. It was way in the mountains. He had fallen and hurt his head, and the ranger that was there, they were capable to they had their kit, their jump bag, and take care of him, because just those two guys out there.
Yeah.
And he was able to do it. Do they? That's not a required training for new ranger or a new park person.
Well, yeah, one of their first requirements is go to the police academy, and then next one would be go to medical school, and then we would start putting them in the search and rescue end of it. Now it depends on what park they are. If they're at a day use park that's a historical interpretive park, they may not go through that training if they didn't need it for that park. But they also would be on our special ranger response classes or teams. And so we'd still put them through those classes. We did a lot of helicopter hoist with Tennessee Highway Patrol. So instead of having to carry somebody 10 or 12 miles in a stretcher that would take a long time, we'd call in aviation, and they would be able to hoist them out in a lot quicker time to really save somebody's life.
Yeah. Do you guys kind of keep a pretty good eye on how many people are going into that? I mean, I don't know. You can't monitor everybody, but you guys have I guess you look for cars. I guess you look for cars that are sitting out there at 2:00 in the morning and there's nobody around, and you're like, that's not good. One of those deals.
Well, the last search that I did as chief ranger with state parks, and that's how they all start. The ranger's getting ready to leave. They're going to go shut the gate. It was wintertime. It was February the 23rd, I believe. Ranger walks out and sees that one car in the parking lot and says, "Oh man." And so, you have to make the determination, is this a lost hiker, or is it somebody that is what we call ROW? Are they in the rest of the world? Did they just park there, jump in with a buddy, and go eat and said, "I'll come back and get the car later on"? Happens every day.
Yeah.
But my last search, that's how
it started. Or went off with their girlfriend that the wife didn't know about.
Well, that has happened on a time or two. So they really get a good scolding when they come back. They come back and the gate's locked. And so, well, let's just call your wife down here to come pick you up.
I got a little quick story, Jason. I don't know, a few years ago, it's probably been about 5 years, I guess. I was over in West Tennessee. Like you said, Tennessee's a big state. So West Tennessee, it's another 2 hours from here. I had met a buddy of mine that we're going to go to a casino in Mississippi, and we decided to do it back then. And I thought, where can I park my car? There's a state park here. I wonder who I could call. So I called my buddy up, and I'll tell you what, Shane. And when I went in there, I parked my car and I went into the park office, and I said, "Hey, is it okay? I had a friend of mine call, Shane. Oh, are you Danny? Yes. Just park it right over here, and we'll watch it all night." And I did. Not everybody can do that, so I felt pretty high that I knew somebody really important.
Well, that didn't take a lot of effort. But now Danny Fleming, our friend paramedic, he called me in the middle of the night because he took a scout group to a park and didn't realize they closed the gate at dark. And it was about 11 o'clock at night. And he's like, "Do you know anybody at this park?" I said, "Well, of course I know everybody, but I hate to have to wake somebody up." But for Danny, I woke him up and they opened the gate for him. So,
and we are going to get to your books, but I want to ask you one thing before we get to there.
Sure.
And I talked to you a little bit off air. Out of all these rescues, you've been involved in, and I know that the first couple that was kind of, it got you really, really interested in that aspect of your job. Of the rescue, and right. I'm sure you're probably it's an adrenaline thing, man. It's a big deal, and etc. But is there a career case or two that really stands out to you over all the years that you did this that were just an amazing story that just stands out from the others?
Well, I've got a couple, and one of them was a young lady that was rock climbing with her brother at Fall Creek Falls. I think it was her 23rd birthday, and she was about 10 feet up. They had gone down into a very rugged gorge area, a few miles downstream, and just very rugged area. And she was about 10 feet up in the air and climbing on a boulder, and the boulder just pulled loose. it was about 200, 225 pounds, and it fell in her lap, and about 95% amputated her leg. And her brother actually took his clothes off, made a splint, or took some sticks and tried to make the best kind of splint that he could, and bandage her up, as well as he could with his clothes. Ran back out to the road to get help, and then ran back to her. I actually happened to be in that park because it was a big festival that day. And I rode my horse out. I was about 150 feet above them in the gorge, and I was able to stop my horse, and I would look down. But I was right in the middle of EMT school. I had just been through mountain rescue, so I grabbed my EMT bag. I grabbed my 200-foot rope and a rappelling harness. I tied my horse to a tree. I rappelled down, got to her, assessed her, called a lot of other rangers, and packed as much dressing in as I could with her. I actually basically held her exposed femoral artery for about the next 2 hours to get her out. And it was just the most rugged stuff that we had gotten out. I stopped the rescue team a couple of times because I thought she had died. I mean, I couldn't get a pulse and I couldn't get a heartbeat. And every time I would get ready to do CPR, she'd open her eyes and look at me, and she'd actually say, "It's my birthday." And I said, "What?" And we take off again. And I met her several years later, and she said, "Do you remember singing happy birthday to me?" And I said, "Girl, I'm a professional. I wouldn't have done that." And then all of a sudden it hit me. I said, "I sure did, didn't I?" I had forgotten that. I guess I blacked it out, or the trauma, the stress of it. But when we got her out and put her in a helicopter, the ambulance attendees told her brother, "You need to go to Chattanooga and identify her body because she didn't make it." And we got a call later that night that she did make it. And matter of fact, the next day I put my horse in the trailer and I drove all the way to Chattanooga with a horse in the horse trailer. I just wanted to look. And so I went into the emergency room, and sure enough, there she was. They put 11 liters of blood in her that night. Did multiple surgeries and put her back together. And she's alive today. Had 2 kids. She had about 367 staples, I think. Had 3 or 4 different total hip surgeries. But she's still mobile, still going. I think she's surfing right now in Hawaii, if last I heard from her. So
she's still got her leg?
Yeah, they put it back together. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they did. So the good Lord he was with us on that day.
Yeah. And did you say you had a second one that comes to mind?
Well, it was my last search that I did. It was the one where we talked about the parking lot, and it took us 417 days to solve. And I know I saw in your intro, you had the old crime scene where you would put the push pins in and draw the string, to all the different. That's what we did with this. This thing it'd make a Netflix series. I go around a lot of the state, and I do this search. I do it about 3 or 4 times a year to different search teams, and I give them a scenario because I used every bit of search and rescue resource and idea and technique that I could imagine, whether it was helicopters, drones, dogs, kayaks, underwater cameras, divers, everything you could think of, and I could not find this guy. And it just plagued me, and I just stayed on it, and it became my cold case. And I told everybody, I will find this guy. And when I do, it's going to be the highlight, and I'm going to retire. I'll retire on top. And it took me 417 days. I found him and decided I better be a man of my word. And so I did retire after that. But we were able to use the technology to be able to find him. It could have been anything that you run into, Jason. He could have been in a different part of the country because he had done it before. He could have got a ride. A lot of things could have happened to him. But he had actually just had a bad accident, fell off a cliff, and it was kind of like an avalanche. It covered up his body, and he just couldn't find him. And we used some geocaching technology to find his phone, and by using that, and had to dig out his body and finally found his skeletal remains.
Any animal activity?
Oh yeah, yeah. There weren't many of his bones left. Most of them had been scattered. We were able to find his skull and about 14 bones, but most of them
Okay.
were scattered. Uh,
Yeah.
but one of the most interesting things, one of my buddies that just helped me forensically from computer side of it, he said, "I promise you, when we find this guy, whether he's dead or alive, he will have his college ring on." Every picture we could see on Facebook, he would hold his hand up and have his college ring on his middle finger. And on that day that we went to look for him, we took this buddy of mine, Clint Dearberry. He had the idea to take a metal detector, and with the metal detector, first we found his cell phone. Then we dug deeper and we found the body or the skeletal remains, and then we found his class ring, which had his name in it, which was able to really identify the individual.
Oh, that had to have been gratifying for you to find.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I just like you, Jason. I lost a lot of sleep. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and go, "How do I miss him? Where is this guy?" I'd get on Google Earth, try to research and go, "What did we not do? Where did we not look?" And I mean, my wife would tell me to leave in the middle of the night. She's like, "If you're going to sit there on the computer and wake me up, get out of my house. Go to the park." Go out there and look for him. Your wife's done it to you. You wouldn't be laughing if it hadn't.
I know.
Oh, you know how it is.
I do. All right, let's talk about these books. So you've got 2 books. Amanda, throw those pictures of those books up there. There's one, Lost in Hound, and then the other one is that one. So God Made Rangers. And tell us how that all started. Where you sat down?
Well, I guess like anybody, we've all got dozens of stories, and I thought, well, I'll write a book someday. But who has time to do that? Well, I don't know if it was just age or calcium or whatever it is, but I had some bone spurs, and the doctor said, "I'm going to take your Achilles tendon off and knock that bone spur off with a chisel and a hammer." And he said, "You're going to be laid up for about 3.5 to 4 months in the bed. You better find something to do." And I said, "You don't know me, doc. I will not be in that bed for that long." And I was wrong. So I took all my canine files and just, my wife would feed me in the morning breakfast. And when she'd leave for work, I'd just get on the computer and I just told stories of all my canine finds and just tried to tell it like you were there with me running through the woods. And so I just put that down. And then after I retired, I took a year off and took a lot of our search and rescue stories. And I really wanted to glorify, in the first one, glorify what the dog could do. But the other one, I wanted to glorify and appreciate state park rangers of what they do. And not just Tennessee, but national park rangers all across the country of just, a lot of people don't realize how many fatalities are in a park and what they have to do to be able to do that. So, so both of my books, I'm not a writer. I found out that you can put anything on paper and send a company money and they'll print it. So I did it really. I've got 9 grandkids and I want them to think I was pretty cool at one time, so when they grow up, maybe one day they'll read it and go, "Wow, he was kind of cool."
Yeah.
But I don't really, the interesting part of my books, I don't really make any money off of them. What I do is when I sell one, they are on Amazon, but when I sell them, any proceeds I get, they go to a very good friend of mine, Sergeant Lee Russell. Lee was the upcoming star with the Tennessee Highway Patrol in their aviation unit. He was a pilot for Tennessee Highway Patrol. August 22nd of 2023, Lee was in a helicopter crash. He and Matt Blancett in Marion County, and they were in a fatal helicopter crash that killed them, and they both had young kids. Lee had 2 kids, and so all proceeds to any of my books go to his kids' college fund. So just one of those. Lee would do the same thing for me, and it was just what little I can do. I don't sell that many books, and so what little I do is just enough to buy another book and then give his kids a little bit of money for a college fund. So if I can help them.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I can't think of a better way to a better book to get, either one of those, and it's going to an epic cause. And so you should look at those, and that just proves to me that you are a class act above. You told me that earlier when we talked on the phone, and I was like, yeah, man, this guy, you're one of those people, man. You're something special. If they had a superhero that was a park ranger with a cape, you're looking at him right here. I think that this is the guy.
I'm just like every other first responder. I pour everything into it that I get, and I didn't waste any time. And it might have been an adrenaline junkie. I don't know, but I just enjoyed serving the public, and still able to do it.
He's always a superhero. Always.
Yeah. I love it because I think he is, and I love it because I have no doubt that it was probably hard for you to walk away. I bet you still want to. Well, you're still kind of your hands are still in stuff. You're just not across the state. You're in a more confined area.
I get to sleep in my bed every night, which is something I didn't do for about 27 years.
Yeah.
But I'm still in the state parks a lot. I still teach search and rescue twice a year through the police academy, and we do it in a state park at Fall Creek Falls. So, and I still encourage a lot of rangers to come through there because I want to keep on that search and rescue training. The state put a lot of training into me, and I'm still able to give back. So the mentors that I had years ago, now I become them, and I'm an instructor. And so I try to teach them everything that was taught me. So my last way to give back.
If somebody wants to reach out to you because they're like, oh man, this is really interesting, how do they get in touch with you down the line?
Probably the best way, my personal email would be t.shane.petty@gmail.com.
All right. Amanda's probably she's probably writing that down right now. But that's great. We'll
get a hold of Danny. He can get a hold of me. So.
Or get a hold of me, and then I will put you in touch. There you go. Is that right? t.shane.petty@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's it. So
perfect. So if you're looking for somebody to speak, I'm sure that he would be he'd be a good fit, and I'm sure you have case studies and everything else. You've got a catalog of stuff that you can talk about. I have no doubt. And he's probably going, well, I don't know about a catalog, but he's got a lot he could probably talk about for sure.
I've got several. That's when we teach our classes. That's what we do. So we take case studies and say, okay, here's what we did. How can you do better? What's the new technology? And I let them, I let them beat me up. Hey, you can see if you do better, and I learn from them. So I learn from the students. So as long as we're all learning from our mistakes, and try to get better, that's better for the visitor.
Anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to put out there in reference to your job and just basically what are your plans for the future?
Man, boy, put the pressure on me. So I love to fish. That's my thing. Matter of fact, like all of us, every first responder, there comes a time when you hang it up. You have to turn your keys in, turn your vehicle in, turn the radio in, the whole 9 yards. When I did that, Jason, my office was on the Duck River here in Middle Tennessee. It's touted as the most biodiverse river in the world. And I live on the Duck River, and I have grown up on the Duck River. So when I turned my truck in, I had a canoe in the back of it. I drug the canoe down the hill. Within 4.5 minutes of retirement, I was fishing on the river. So I fished, and I live below there, about a mile from there. So I fished home, and my wife and 2 of my grandkids were waiting on me there at the boat ramp. So, when I finally do retire, I stayed retired a year, fished almost every day, but then went back to work in my home county here with emergency management here in Maury County. And they still let me work dogs, and I still can give back to the county and teach some of the young folks and still teaching the state. And so I'll still be involved with that as much as I can. It's just, the way we're all molded. But, the biggest thing I want to think is, like you guys and every other first responder, that people don't realize, we have to thank our families because we're all a phone call away, and it happens every minute. This armed robbery I worked last week, it was on Friday night. And so you get called out. I was actually on vacation, and so I had to look at my wife, and she knew, she loves, I love to run behind the dog. And I said, look, there's a community in need. I have an ability and a resource, and I'm going to go try to help them out. And
What happens, Shane, if you're fishing with your wife and her fishing pole gets pulled into the water?
Well, that happened to us on vacation. There's a video out there. I was going to take a lure and try to get it. And my wife, there was a fish on the end of the line. So she just jumped out of the lake and dove down and came up with a fishing pole. So if you don't believe it, look on my Facebook page and you'll see the video. She did it. Yeah. Thanks, Danny.
That's like a mountain woman is what that people just don't do that.
I married a real country girl. She's not afraid of anything.
Nice. Danny, anything else? Any other questions that you want to throw at him?
It's just an honor to be in both of you guys' presence. But just be here. Thanks, Shane, for coming on and being a part of this. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
I know it did to Jason.
Oh my gosh,
man, it's been my honor. I mean, to be in the room with a couple of giants, man. Thank you, Jason, for having us on and come back to Tennessee. We've got plenty of more stories, and we can hit a state park and do some fishing.
That sounds like a plan, and I'm going to hold you to that, and we'll definitely be back in your great state. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is episode number 75. No better person to be the guest tonight than Shane. And man, 75 episodes, that's a big deal. I encourage you, if you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. To subscribe to this channel, it takes you less than 30 seconds, and I appreciate it, and it's free. And what it does is it helps the algorithm, and it helps these guys get recognized by a lot more people and to get the word out. And that's what I love about this. I want to thank everybody for being here. Hopefully, I'm going to see some of you at the U.S. Marshal Museum. And tell a friend or a family member if you really enjoy the content of this to go ahead and check it out. And I appreciate everybody that does. And please leave a comment because I try to respond to all of those as well. Check out my TikTok page. That thing is exploding. Danny's shaking his head up and down. That's right, because it's exploded. I don't know. I put some videos on there of checking out a couple of real life crime locations. And it's kind of fun, and I enjoy just kind of doing some fun stuff like that. I'm not acting stupid. I'm just it's kind of my thing. Shane, my thing is murder. Your thing is looking for fish and people out in the wilderness. Mine is I just am fascinated with murder. I guess we all have our own little thing, and I wanted to do that since I was a little kid, so I can relate to you 100%.
Wow. Amen.
Listen. That's right. Thank you all for being here. Thanks again, Shane. You're really I consider you a friend from here on, man. You're somebody special. And Danny, I appreciate you coming back and sitting in with us. Thank you for getting with Shane and making this happen. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we're going to have an episode the week after that because I don't want to take away from a guest throwing an episode up on the Thanksgiving weekend. Just enjoy your weekend with your family. And I will tell you this, we are going to have Mike Elam back on, and those episodes have just went through the roof. I mean, it's crazy. We'll talk to him about what has been discovered about Sheriff Pusser, the stuff that he discovered from the files that were released from that case, the Tennessee's Bureau of Investigation. Epic job doing their job, which is really impressive. And so we'll talk more about that later on down the line. Until next time, though, Amanda, take us out.